Hi students, welcome to this video session. My name is Samuel Chukwu Emeka, aka Samdon for Peace, and my personal quote is, "The joy of a teacher is the success of his students." It is my joy when my students succeed. In this video we shall write mathematics from English. We shall write 2x2 linear systems from word problems. So they give us the problem in English and we just need to write it in math. Some students do not like word problems, but you know, word problems is just, if you understand the English, just put it to math and solve. So we shall look at some hints and clues to writing these word problems. Please, before you begin to view this video, it is highly recommended that you view these two videos, write equations from word problems, and that's the link. Is part 1 and part 2, so that you can get familiar with the common vocabulary words. We have some common vocabulary words that you need to understand before you view this video. Again, this video, the notes will be on my website as well. My website was listed here. So the notes of this video will be on my website. Now, let's look at some things about word problems. Almost all word problems are written in standard British English. So it is essential that you become familiar with standard British English. Unfortunately, word problems are not written in American English, so it is important that you become proficient in standard British English. Now, some word problems are very lengthy and may be unnecessary. Those ones are meant to discourage you from even trying. When examiners set questions, you know, this is not a case of 1 + 1 or 2 + 2. You know, sometimes they complicate the issue to confuse the students by making the word problems to be very lengthy. And when some students, when they see a really big word problem, you know, they kind of try to quit. They have not even read through the word problems, you know, and they want to quit immediately. No. You should not be discouraged by big word problems. In each word problem, there are just the specific math vocabulary words or terms that are very important. You look for the key words. You know, you have to understand it first, then you kind of sieve out what you don't need. Yeah, so please don't be discouraged about big word problems. Sometimes these big word problems are just asking for a very simple thing, you know. A lot of word problems show the real world applications of the concepts. You know, that's why we learn word problems, because most of it demonstrate real world applications. So word problems are here to stay. You might know mathematics very well, but when it comes to word problems, you want to quit. No, they are here to stay. Okay. In fact, in each topic, because we are trying to relate the applications of the math concepts that we teach, we will ask word problems. So it's here to stay. Okay, you have to just try to understand it and get used to it. Okay, so don't be discouraged. Embrace word problems. See it as writing from English to math. Take time to read to understand, just like you read your comprehension. You want to read it first to understand what it means. You want to read the passage first. So with the word problems, however big, you would need to read it to see whether you understand it first. That's the main thing. You have to understand it first. Now, like I said initially, it is English. It is English. You just have to write it to math. So, you know, if you don't like the word problems, just say English to math. Okay? Then, sometimes you might need to paraphrase and shorten long sentences as necessary. If you don't like those big words, you might need to paraphrase. We will look at an example in this video to see how you do it. Then it is also important that you reread, and as you reread, you kind of underline or note the vocabulary math terms written in English. Those vocabulary math terms is are in those prerequisite videos. So it is important that you become familiar with those vocabulary math terms: sum, difference, product, quotient, consecutive, more, less, more than, less than, twice. It's in those videos. Then you want to translate or write important sentences one at a time. You want to now write those English to math. Then review what you have written to ensure correctness, to make sure that it is correct. And once you have translated it to math, you review what you wrote, then you solve the math, and after solving the math, whatever you get as your solution, you want to check it in the word problem. You want to check it back in the word problem to make sure that it is correct. Now, let's look at this. Just write, solve and check if you wish. For the questions we shall attempt in this video, we shall only translate. That is what we need to do here. We want to translate the English to math. And then you view my other videos for how to solve it. 2x2 linear systems. There are videos I did on how to solve it. Question 1. The sum of two numbers is -4. The difference between the numbers is 28. Find the numbers. So, here we look at sum of two numbers and then we look at difference. These are the key words. Now, do we know those two numbers? We don't. And whatever you do not know in mathematics, you assign variables to it. So, whatever you do not know in mathematics, you assign variables to it. We now say, let the numbers be x and y. The first sentence, sum of two numbers, which means x plus y, is equal to -4. This gives you your equation 1. Then the second one, the difference between the numbers is 28, which means x minus y is 28. This gives you your equation 2. So you have translated it. Question 1 is direct. It is not lengthy. It is straightforward. It is direct. Let's look at question 2. The 10th digit of a 2-digit number is 6 less than 7 times the unit digit. The difference between the digits is 6. Find the number. Question 2 is also straightforward. What are we looking for here? Let's underline the keywords. This should be tens digit, and it's going to be a 2-digit number. Is equal to 6 less than 7 times the unit digit. So we have the tens digit and we have the unit digit. The tens digit is 6 less than 7 times the unit digit. Then the next keyword, the difference between the digits, is 6. So this is a 2-digit number, right? Do we know the 2-digit number? We do not. So let's just say the 2-digit number to be XY. You know, 2-digit number, like it might be 1 to 12. 1 is the tens digit and 2 is the unit digit. Remember, if you have a 2-digit number like 12, 1 is the tens digit, because 1 is the tens digit, right? Is the tens, and then 2 units. So it's 1 tens and 2 units. And that's how you have 12. You did this in your kindergarten grade. Now, so let the 2-digit number be XY, right? Let it be XY. We now, the tens digit is X and the unit digit is Y. So the first sentence here, tens digit is 6 less than 7 times the unit digit. So that is 7y minus 6. X is 7y minus 6. That becomes your equation 1. Then the next one, the difference between the digits is 6. So x minus y is 6. That becomes your equation 2. You see that? I mean, this is something that you just have to do gradually and you will get it correct. Question 3. Airplane. Assume that a plane is flying at a constant speed under unvarying wind conditions. Traveling against a headwind, the plane takes 4 hours to travel 564 miles. Traveling with a tailwind, the plane flies 549 miles in 3 hours. Find the speed of the plane and the speed of the wind. Yeah, there should be 549 miles here. Miles. So, if you look at this question for a moment, you will see that it is too much, right? Some students will just see this question and they, no, it's too much. Now, there are 2 things you can do. You can go ahead and paraphrase it, or you can just underline the keywords that you need, and we shall look at them one at a time. Now, let's start with this. Can we paraphrase this? But before we paraphrase, we have to find the speeds first, you know. Now, if we look at this question, they said find the speed of the plane and the speed of the wind. Okay, they didn't give us speed directly. They didn't. If it's the unit of speed directly is miles per hour, but they did not give it. But they did not give it to us. Rather, they gave us the miles and the hours. Here, against headwind, they gave us 4 hours and 564 miles. With a tailwind, they gave us 549 miles in 3 hours. So, we have to find the speed, because speed is miles per hour. Okay, if it's or kilometer per hour, it is distance per time. That is the first thing we do. So we now find the speed of plane with the wind, right? With the wind, which means 549 divided by 3, right? Gives us 183. miles per hour. R. Then we find the speed of the plane against the wind, which is 564 divided by 4. And that gives us 141 miles per hour. We have now got everything in speed. So we can now rewrite this word problem. This word problem, we can rewrite it as flying with the wind, a plane flew 183 miles per hour. Flying against the wind, a plane flew 141 miles per hour. Find the speed of the plane and the speed of the wind. So you see now that this big sentence, this big word problem, these big sentences, we have reduced it to just this. So you can paraphrase. You can always paraphrase. Put it in your own understanding, as I said earlier, and then paraphrase and shorten it as necessary. That is one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is get the keywords, underline the keywords. That will kind of save you time. Underline the keywords. This is against, plane against a headwind, 4 hours, 564 miles. Plane with a tailwind, 549 miles in 3 hours. And that will save you much time. So you can either paraphrase it or you can underline the keywords. So what do we say here? Let the speed of the plane be x and let the speed of the wind be y. When it is traveling with the wind, right? If it is traveling with the wind, then that is x plus y equal to 183. Speed of plane with the wind. But if it is traveling against the wind, then that will be x minus y equal to 141. So those are your two equations before you solve it. Question 4. Assume that Singapore and Paris are the two most expensive cities to live in 2014. On the basis of the average total cost per day for each city, which includes a hotel room, car rental, and 3 meals, 2 days in Singapore and 3 days in Paris costs $2,772, while 4 days in Singapore and 2 days in Paris cost $3,488. What is the average cost per day in each city? So you can this is too much. It's still too much because this first sentence, actually we don't need it. Now we can paraphrase it, or let us just underline the keywords to save us time. So we are looking at this. This is only what we need. 2 days in Singapore, 3 days in Paris, and this is the cost. We don't need all these. So, but this is the question here. And you see this question, you don't even want to read it. You don't even want to read it. You just quit. That is not what you should do. You should try to read it to understand it first. And then underline the keywords or remove the ones you don't need. So 2 days in Singapore, 3 days in Paris, and this is the cost. 4 days in Singapore and 2 days in Paris, this is the cost. That is what we need. Now, what is the average cost per day in each city? We don't know that. So what do? We assign variables. Let the average cost per day of living in Singapore be x. Let the average cost per day of living in Paris be y. So here we say now 2 days in Singapore, which is 2x, plus 3 days in Paris, which is 3y, equal to 2,772. Yeah, because X is the cost per day. So if you have 2 days, it is 2x. Okay, assuming X is $10 for a day. If you have 2 days, it's going to be $20. So that's why we wrote 2x plus 3y to be 2772. Then 4x plus 2y will give us 3488. And those are your two equations. Question 5. Mekus Farms has 300 acres of land allotted for cultivating rice and beans. The cost of cultivating rice and beans, including seeds and labor, is $3 and $15 per acre, respectively. Mekus has $1,500 available for cultivating these crops. If he wishes to use all the allotted land and his entire budget for cultivating these two crops, how many acres of each crop should he plant? You see, this question is kind of a little bit different from what we did in the previous questions. What problems are worded, differently in several, different questions are worded differently. But like I said, the main thing is to understand it. Now, in this question, we are kind of looking at two variables here that we need to identify. We have to identify two key variables. And can you tell me the two variables that are very important here? We have a land and we have cost. That is the two key variables here. But let's go back to the question. How many acres of each crop should he plant? We have two crops here. We have rice and we have beans. Do we know how many acres of rice? We don't. Do we know how many acres of beans? We don't. So the first thing, we have two factors are important here, which is land and cost. Then let the acre of rice be X, because we don't know what it is. And let the acre of beans be Y. Now, we now have to write our equations based on those two key variables. The first one, land. We know that acre of rice plus acre of beans should be equal to what? 300. So this is a key word, 300 acres of land for cultivating rice and beans. That is what we know. So whatever the amount of acres it is for rice, or whatever the amount of acres for beans, both of them should equal 300 acres. Remember, also read here, he wishes to use all the allotted land and his entire budget, which is cost, land and cost. So that gives us equation 1. Now equation 2, we look at cost. In the cost, it says here $3 and $15 per acre, respectively. Respectively means that the $3 is for rice and the $15 is for beans. Okay, that is what the respectively means, that the $3 is for rice and the $15 is for beans. Per acre. So, and how much does he have? How much money does he have for cultivating this? He has what? $1,500 available for cultivating these two crops. Now, per acre means that if you have 1 acre, it's going to be $3. If you have 2 acres, if you have 1 acre for cultivating rice to be $3, then if you have 2 acres, it's going to be $6. You have 3 acres, it's going to be $9. You have 4 acres, it's going to be $12. So if you have X acres, then it has to be 3X dollars. Does it make sense? And then for the Y, it is $15 per acre. If you have 2 acres, it is $30 because it's 2 times 15. If you have 3 acres, it is $45 because it is 3 times 15. If you have 4 acres, it is $60 because it is 4 times 15. So if you have Y acres, it's going to be Y times 15, which is 15Y. And the total amount for cultivating these crops is $1,500. So you apply the sense in arithmetic to algebra. You apply it to algebra. Question 6. In 2008, U.S. exports to Canada exceeded the exports to Mexico by 110 billion. Together, exports to these two countries is 412 billion. How much were exports to each country? Do we know the exports to each country? We do not. So we have to define our terms. Let the U.S. exports to Canada be X, and let the U.S. exports to Mexico be Y. Now let us identify the key words here. Exceeded, exceeded, exceeded by this. Exports to Canada exceeded exports to Mexico by 110 billion. Right? So that is the first keyword. Then second keyword is together. Together means sum. Sum. Together. Okay? That is the second keyword. So the first keyword exceeded. X is 110 plus Y. Whatever they exported to Mexico, if you added 110, that is what they exported to Canada. That is what it means. Okay? If they made only 5 exports to Mexico, then that means they made 115 exports to Canada. If they made 10 exports to Mexico, then that means they made 120 exports to Canada. So that is the first keyword. Second keyword, we now see that the together sum, together means sum, exports to these two countries is 412 billion. So that is why you have it in equation 2. Question 7. Lakunda was given 2 options by a business firm to be a full partner or a sales manager. As a full partner, she will receive an annual salary of $20,000 and 25% of the company's yearly profits. As a sales manager, she will receive a salary of $30,000 and 20% of the company's profits. What must the yearly profit be for her total earnings to be the same, regardless of which option she chose? Now, this is a big one, but we still have to find out the keywords. Now, we have full partner and we have sales manager. Full partner is what? Salary of $20,000 and 25% of the yearly profits. Sales manager, salary of $30,000 and 20% of the company's profits, yearly profits. Then, what must the yearly profit be for her total earnings to be the same, regardless of which option she chose? Now, what is going to be the same? What? Total earnings will be the same. And then, what are they asking us? Yearly profit. So, what are the key variables here? Not the key words now, but the key variables. We have total earnings and we have yearly profit. Those are the key variables. Total earnings and yearly profits. Now, let's look at total earnings. We have to find out for the, we now say, okay, do we know the total earnings? We done. Do we know the yearly profit? We done. So, let the total earnings be X and let the yearly profit be Y. Then, we now look at the 2 options. We have two, they gave her 2 options. Full partner. As a full partner, her total earning will be $20,000 plus 25% of Y. See that? As a full partner, her total earning will be 20,000 plus 25%, which is 0.25. Of y, of is times. Of means the times of y. And then, as a sales manager, her salary will be $30,000 plus 20% of y, 0.20 of y. So those are your two equations. Comprendez? Comprenez-vous? Question 8. LeBron Durant and Kevin James measured a basketball court and found that the width of the court was 34 feet less than the length. If the perimeter was 350 feet, what were the length and width of the basketball court? You understand why I'm smiling, right? LeBron Durant and Kevin James. Okay, let's get back to business. What are they asking us? They are asking us for the length and for the width. We know the length and the width. We do not know. Therefore, we have to assign variables to the length and to the width. Now, what is the first keyword here? The width is 34 feet less than the length. That is the first keyword. What is the second keyword? Perimeter is 350 feet. Right, but we don't have, now this question, this geometry question, it requires us to know the formula for perimeter, right? So that we can write the equation. So the first thing we say, let the length be L and let the width be W. First keyword, width is 34 feet less than the length. So 34 feet less than the length. In those prerequisite videos, you will understand why I wrote that. That is gonna be L minus 34. Okay, because if the length is 40, right? That means the width will be what? 40 minus 34, which is 6. Alright, then the basketball is what? Rectangular in shape. Because it is rectangular in shape, we look at the perimeter of a rectangle, which is 2 times length plus 2 times width. And the perimeter is 350. So 2L plus 2W equal to 350. That gives us our equation 2. Question 9. Rick has a total of $34,500 invested in 2 bonds that yield 3% and 7% interest per year, respectively. If the annual interest Rick received from the bonds is $1,200, how much did he invest in each bond? So here we are looking at what? Total of what? 34,500 invested in 2 bonds. And what are their yields? 3%, 7%, respectively. Respectively means first bond is 3%, second bond is 7%. So, of course, the 2 bonds, they did not give it a name. So we have to give it our own name. You can say bond 1 and bond 2. You can say bond A and bond B. You can say first bond and second bond. So here we have 2 bonds, first bond and second bond. Now we have to find the interest from the first bond and the interest from the second bond. And that interest should give us what? 1,200. But the first thing we do, right? He has a total of 34,500. So, and he invested in these 2 bonds. So the principal, the investment or the principal in the first bond plus the principal or the investment in the second bond should give us 34,500. That's number 1. Number 2, we find the interest from the first bond and the interest from the second bond, and it should give us $1,200. So let the bonds be first bond and second bond. And let the principal in the first bond be x. Let the principal in the second bond be y. This tells you that x plus y is 34,500. That's the principal. That gives you equation 1. Now let's go ahead and find the interest, because it says here annual interest. Annual interest. Now what is the formula? What is the interest formula? Principal times rate times time. So let's look at the first bond. The principal is x. The rate is 3%, which is 0.03. The time is 1 year. So the interest will be x times 0.03 times 1. That gives us 0.03x. In the second bond, the principal is y. The rate is 7%, which is 0.07. And the time is y. So the interest will be y times 0.07 times 1, which gives us 0.07y. Therefore, the interest from the first bond, which is this, plus the interest from the second bond, which is this, should give us 1200. That is equation 2. Question 10. Do you drink? Please tell me no. If you are under 21, you should not. Okay, assume you want to obtain a 10-liter solution containing 40% alcohol. You mix a 30% alcohol solution with a 70% alcohol solution. How many liters of each solution should you mix? I did a video on this, mixtures. If you go to my website and you click on algebra, you click on my picture to enter the site, click on mathematics, click on algebra, and then you click on linear equations. I did a video on mixtures. I used another formula in that. There's a formula I used there. That is one method you can use to solve problems with mixtures. These are problems with mixtures. And I kind of explained it very well about mixtures there. So you might need to view that video. Mixture problems on under linear equations is in a playlist, so that you can understand the concept of mixtures. Now this is 10 liters. You want to obtain 10 liters containing 40% alcohol. Now how do you want to get this? You have a 30% alcohol that you have to mix with a 70% alcohol solution to give you 40%. Now with mixtures, this is not like, you kind of say, let me mix it and get that. Some of you might ask, why is it if you mix 30% and 70%, you get 40%? Well, it depends on the volume. Like when you want to dilute if you have a strong alcohol solution, like a liquor or rum, if you want to dilute it, what do you put? You put water, because water is 0% alcohol. So if you want to dilute a strong mixture, if you want to dilute a strong solution, you add a weak solution to that to dilute it. Now you can dilute that if, like, you test an alcohol, like you test wine and you see 70% alcohol solution. It's too strong. You don't want it. So you only have a 30% alcohol solution available. So you want to get at least 40% alcohol solution. So you have to dilute it. You have to mix it. But the volume now is the thing, because the volume, that is where the volume comes into consideration. If you want to get this particular 40% and 10 liters, then you should now be able to find how many volumes of this would you have to pour to how many volumes of this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Please, I went through that video very well. Please, so that you can understand the concept. Now, I used a different method to solve questions like that in that video. Here we shall use another method to do that. So the first thing you want to do here, there are two factors that are here, volume and concentration. Volume because of the liters, and concentration because of the how many percent alcohol. That's the concentration. So we say let the volume of the, because that is what they're asking us, how many liters of each solution should you mix. So let the volume for the 30% alcohol be X, and let the volume of the 70% alcohol be Y. So for the volume, X plus Y should be 10. Remember, you want to have a 10 liters solution. So whatever the amount of volume for the 30% and whatever the amount of volume for the 70%, both of them should be equal to 10. That is equation 1. Now we look at the concentration. 30%, you will mix 30% of this volume plus 70% of this volume to give you 40% of this entire volume, which is the mixture, which is 10 liters. So when you do that, this is 0.3 because 30% is 0.3. Of means times 0.3 times X plus 70% is 0.7. 0.7 times Y should give you 40%, which is 0.4 of the entire mixture. Entire 40% of the entire 10 liters. Entire volume of the mixture, which is 10 liters. So we now have that 0.3x plus 0.7y will be 4. And that gives you your equation 2. Because 0.4 times 10 is 4. So that gives you your equation 2. So this is another method to solve this question. This is another method to solve this question. Question 11. Evelyn invested an amount of $2,250 in 2 different banks. She invested some amount in a bank that offers 6% interest rate, and the rest of the money in a bank that offers 8% interest rate. The yearly income on the 8% investment was $6, more than twice the income from the 6% investment. How much did she invest in each bank? This is similar to the one we did before. The only thing was there was an addition here, $6 more than twice the income from the 6%. Income from the 8% is $6 more than twice income from the 6%. It is 2 different banks. We can call it Bank A and Bank B, right? Just like we did the previous question. The only addition here is this, $6 more than twice the income from the 6% investment. So we say let the banks be Bank A and Bank B. They didn't tell us the name of the banks, so we assume it is Bank A and Bank B. Now, investment, let the investment or principal in Bank A be X, and then investment or principal in Bank B be Y. So the first thing we have is that X plus Y should give us what? $22.50. That is the amount of investment in those 2 banks. That gives you equation 1. Then we write the formula for the interest formula, because the interest is what? The interest on the 8% is $6 more than twice the interest from the 6%. Now, in the previous question, they gave us the sum of the annual interest, so we just added it. But in this one, the interest from the 8% is $6 more than twice the interest from the 6%. Yeah. So we write the interest formula. Then we look at Bank A. Principal is X. Rate is 6%, which is 0.06. And time is 1 year. So this is the interest, 0.06x. We look at Bank B, principal is Y, rate is 8%, which is 0.08, time is 1, so the interest is 0.08y. Now, they told us that the interest from Bank B is more than twice the interest from Bank A. So 6 more than twice that. And that gives you that 0.08y is equal to 6 plus 0.12x. That gives you your equation 2. Last but not the least, Michael travels upstream a distance of 56 miles at top speed to a fishing spot in 4 hours. On his return, he noticed that his trip downstream, still at top speed, takes 3.5 hours. Find the rate of Michael's boat and the rate of the current. Of course, this makes sense. You know, when you walk, just like when you walk against gravity and then when you walk with gravity, you know, just like when you're driving your car uphill and you're driving your car downhill. If you're driving your car uphill, right, you have to mash on the accelerator or the throttle because you're kind of walking against gravity. But when you're driving your car downhill, you're walking with gravity. So you even have to mash on the brakes to slow down your speed. I mean, it's faster. You know, on his return downstream, still at top speed, it just took him 3.5 hours, right? But here it took him 4 hours, 56 miles. So it's still 56 miles anyway. You know, it's a distance of 56 miles, whether it's upstream or whether it's downstream. It's just that in upstream it took him more time, 4 hours. Of course, because that's like walking against gravity. Right. Now, so they're asking us for the rate of Michael's boat and the rate of the current. So this is like same speed. What is the speed of Michael's boat and what is the speed of the current? So we say speed is distance over time. The upstream speed will be 56 divided by 4. That gives you 14 miles per hour. The downstream speed is 56 divided by 3.5. Because it's the same distance, you know. In a question similar like this, it was 2 different distances and 2 different times. Yeah, but here it's still the same distance, so you still use 56 miles. So you do 56 divided by 3.5 gives you 16 miles per hour. So the speed was more in downstream. Now let's write the equations. Let the rate of Michael's boat be x, and let the rate of the current be y, because we do not know it. So we assign variables. Now for upstream, he's working against gravity, so x minus y is 14. And for downstream, he's working with gravity, so x plus y is 16. So these are your 2 equations. Thank you for listening. Of course, this is the equation 1 and this is the equation 2. Watch out for 3x3 linear systems from English to math. Have a great day. And as usual, my quote, the joy of a teacher is the success of his students. These are the references. Thank you, students, and you have a great day.